It was a beautiful old bridge, but in the last few years, the city had moved away from this section of the river and it was used less. It was one lane and one of the last bridges in the country that was made of wood but still allowed automobile traffic. There were weight limit warnings at both ends of the road that crossed it. There were warning signs on the entrance ramps restricting the right-of-way. Then came the worst storm the city had ever experienced. Upstream, 2 trees fell into the river. Other debris caught on them, creating a dam. An hour later, it burst, causing a wall of water, trees, and other debris to rush downstream. Experts later said that the largest tree stuck deep into the riverbed, right in front of the bridge, as if trying to save it. But the water broke through anyway, and everything was swept away. Later, the depression in the riverbed sometimes created mini whirlpools. The council put it on the agenda for its next finance meeting, but the bridge was never replaced. Closer to the new town center was a more modern one. Road closed signs were put up at each approach, and overpasses at the edge warning, "Danger! No bridge!" And that was it. "She's in the side room, Mr. Parsons," said the nurse who met me in the emergency room. "I'll show you in." I asked her how much worse my wife had gotten, but she was reluctant to answer. She referred me to a specialist, which is never a good sign. He was in my wife's room, looking grim, pulled back the curtain on the bed, and gestured for me to come out into the hallway with him. "I regret to inform you that your wife is growing rapidly weaker, Mr. Parsons. She has at most an hour or so left. We've given her something for the pain, but there's nothing more we can do. I'm so sorry." "Do you know what it is?" "Not yet. As you know, she came in with nausea and vomiting. Dilated pupils suggested drugs or some kind of food poisoning. But we emptied her stomach, and there were no drugs or medications in her system. An hour ago, when she complained of breathing and vision problems, we called you again. Because of the pain and muscle weakness, I'm afraid she's near the end. A few more tests, and we may know what it is. But we don't have the capabilities of a city hospital, and test results take time anyway." "Can we move her to the city?" "No. It's deteriorating rapidly, and now she's too weak to move. But it wouldn't make any difference. Here or in a better-equipped hospital, I'm afraid she can't be saved. Better to leave her here in relative comfort than risk her dying in an ambulance." "So what's killing her anyway?" "I'm afraid we don't know. Food poisoning still seems the most likely, although she says she only ate cheese salad today. You'd better prepare for the worst. It's bad enough when I don't know the cause of death until after the autopsy, but unfortunately that's the situation we're in now." "Is there nothing else we can do?" "Nothing. I'm sorry. Mr. Parsons, I know you have a lot of questions, and I'm happy to tell you everything we know, but not right now. Your wife has regained consciousness, perhaps briefly, and is requesting the opportunity to speak with you." And I went back to her room and pulled the curtains on the bed open. There was a chair next to Margot's bed. She was sitting up, and an IV had been put in. She looked terrible. "Mrs. Parsons wants to talk to you, sir," said the nurse. "I'll leave you to it. Please press this button if you need anything." She hurried toward the exit. "Is that you, Liam?" "Of course, love. I'm sorry. I'm starting to have trouble seeing. I don't think I've got much time left." "Nonsense. You'll be back on your feet in no time." Her smile said, "We both know that's not true." "Sit down, my love," she wheezed. "They say confession is good for the soul. I have a lot to tell you, so I'd better hurry up." "Okay, go ahead," I encouraged her. "Liam, I'm so sorry, but I've been having an affair for the past 6 months. I know you're going to be mad, but I'm not going to tell you the man's name. If I do, you might beat him up or something and end up in jail." "I understand. You don't seem very concerned." "Well, you, for one, think you're on your way to the end. It's best if I just keep calm for now and let you take the weight off your heart." "Very well." She tried to take a deep breath, but ended up coughing. "I first met him on one of my Thursday nights with Babs. We always went to the Castle Hotel for cocktails and a chat. He's traveling, works as some kind of salesman. and stays there on Thursdays every other week. Castle. Is that the one right across the river from us? That's the one. You have to take a long detour, though. The old bridge is gone now. Margot continued. It all started so innocently. He asked us to dance. First me, then Babs. He was interesting and a lot of fun. We started seeing him every 2 weeks. But when it became clear that he was more interested in me, Babs stopped coming. She told Malcolm that she was still seeing me, but she started going to the wine bar with the girls from work. And I told you, of course, that I was seeing Babs. I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you. I just got carried away. She started crying. Come on, Margot, no tears. What's done is done. Water under the bridge. Well, in our case, over the bridge. We can get through it. You'll get it all out. Thank you, darling. It soon escalated to dinner and dancing. Then we started going to his room for sex. But it was just sex. I admit it was fun and exciting, but I've never loved anyone but you. Thank you. He always said the hotel was fine, but complained that he missed home cooking. We often joked about what a good cook I was. Of course, he couldn't know that, but it flattered me anyway. And then recently you told me you'd be gone all Thursday night. So you invited him over to our house for dinner so you could make him something home-cooked. Yeah, pretty obvious, I guess. I cooked dinner for him and bought a bottle of red wine. He doesn't like beer, and I, as you know, only drink gin and tonic. He stayed out all night. Sex was okay, but we slept in the guest bedroom. We never did it in our bed. Never. And again last night? Yes and no. When you said you had to stay the night again, I invited him over for dinner. Then you called and said you were suddenly heading home. We panicked, and he drove back to the hotel. You arrived an hour later, and that's when I decided I'd had enough. I'd tell him it was over, although I guess I won't need to now. Almost getting caught scared me and made me realize how much I love you. I do. Do you feel better now that you've confessed? Emotionally, yes. I just couldn't go to my grave without telling you the truth. But physically, the pain is getting worse. She shifted her posture and wrinkled her nose. I'll ask the nurse for another pain pill later. Just hang in there for now, love. You've said your piece and I've listened. Now you just need to listen and take it easy. I will. Margot drooled, and I wiped her mouth. She reached for a glass of water, and I grabbed the glass before she knocked it over. Once she had a little sip, I set the glass back on the bedside table and began. I suppose I should start by saying that one Sunday morning I was at the newsstand. I was looking through some gardening magazines when I heard your friend Babs. Strange where the most innocuous conversation can lead. Margot frowned, looking embarrassed. Babs didn't see me, so she couldn't know what the effect was. Yeah, we should get together and have a chat. It's been too long. Babs was talking on her cell phone. 5 years? I suppose that's how it's supposed to be. Of course, it's not as if you've been in our neck of the woods much. When are you due back? I wondered who her friend was, but I wasn't really paying attention. Then, Thursday night would be best. I'm meeting the girls from work there anyway. I can consult with Margot, but don't hold your breath. She's usually very busy on Thursdays, if you know what I mean. Margot looked puzzled. You don't get it, do you? It's probably the painkillers making it hard to understand. Please get a nurse, Liam. The pain is getting worse. Later. Look, Babs isn't supposed to be free on Thursday night. That's the day she's meeting you. She started coughing again. It all became clear. Thursday, I followed you to the hotel and had a couple beers while watching you have dinner with your lover. She had gone pale. She now looked her age. It was easy enough to figure out that it was Ed Donnelly, so trying to hide his name was unnecessary. I saw you go to his room together. You knew? Why did you let me confess? And why didn't you do anything? Because I wanted to hear you out. You distinguish between love and sex, and rightly so. But you said it was just sex, and that's not true, because it was more than that. It was humiliation and betrayal of the worst kind, Margot. As for why I didn't do anything, I did. She turned even paler. What? I took my revenge on both of you. I often take walks along the riverbank. When the level dropped after that storm, I came across something unusual and brought it to the greenhouse. What was it? Oh, wait. Next, I assumed you'd prefer the comfort of your own home for your dirty deed, so I came up with Thursday night. Then I watched the house, so I know you spent the night in the guest room. What are you gonna do? Everything's already done. The next day I checked the house. It's amazing what you can find when you know what you're looking for. Black panties and stockings to match the dirty laundry, not the kind you normally wear. But best of all was a large jug, washed and left on the drying rack. We only used it for red wine, which led me to discover the empty bottle at the bottom of the trash can. I'm sorry you had to find out like this. Don't be. I'm not a sufferer. It was the best entertainment I've had in years, and now I'm going to be rich. Get rich? Well, richer than I would have been after the divorce. The house, my salary, my savings, my pension. Sharing it all seemed unfair, you sleeping with some traveling salesman and then having me in divorce court. Margot coughed again, then shuddered. She tried to speak, but struggled to make any sense. We're moving on to the final phase. Difficulty with speech. Soon you won't even be able to tell the medics what I said. She reached for the call button, but I yanked her hand away. Was the sex good last night when he came to the house? Her eyes widened. I thought so. I didn't leave. I just slipped in while you were getting ready, probably putting on your see-through panties and sexy stockings. It was just a matter of minutes to slip a couple of lollipops into the wine decanter. Hypnol. A friend of a friend of a friend of mine bought me some. Conveniently, the stallion hung his jacket in our hallway. It allowed me to steal his keys and unlock his car. I went back and put them back and watched him pull down your panties while the lasagna fried. Margot turned even paler and her eyes began to glass over. Stay with me a little longer, dear. Then I waited in the study while he tipped 1 to 2 glasses down his throat. Then I slipped out, got in the back seat of his car, and called you from my cell phone. I told you I was on my way home. He rushed out, fumbling for his keys. He jumped in without even noticing the car was unlocked, and didn't notice that I was behind him. I let him have a good drive down the road in case you were watching Goodbye. Then I clamped my gloved hand over his mouth, of course, and yanked up the handbrake. I had to take over the steering of the car. Well, he was starting to lose consciousness by then. She tried to talk, but was fading fast. Long story short, I moved the police barrier, and somehow he managed to drive right into the river. You know, the deepest part, upstream from where the bridge used to be. The driver's side window was open, so there was no air pocket. The river is pretty fast there. It creates little whirlpools where that tree went in. His car was completely submerged in the water. I read somewhere that it takes 2 minutes to drown. I waited 5 minutes, but he never showed up. The Rohypnol should be long gone from his system before they eventually discovered it. I checked that she was still conscious during the last part of my story. When I got home, the decanter had been washed and dried. You think I didn't notice the lasagna for 2 at the bottom of the trash can? Then I made you a great cheese salad tonight. That's where my find by the river came in handy. Water hemlock, antidote unknown. I'm told it tastes a little like parsley. They might suspect foul play, but I'll tell them you made the salad, that you went for a walk by the river. Who's gonna argue? Then she panicked and started convulsing from the waist up. Ah! Increasing paralysis of the limbs. I've read about that. From a layman's point of view, it would be over when it reached the heart. But don't worry. I'll stay with you until the victorious end. She coughed again, and it was her last cough.